All right, let's get going. This is the City of Reno Planning Commission meeting, Wednesday, November 5th, 2025 at 6 p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Raley.
The United States of America.
To the Republic.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Chair Jockman,
Here.
Vice Chair Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Becerra,
Here.
Commissioner Del Villar,
Here.
Commissioner Gonviantini,
Here.
Commissioner Romeyer,
In person.
Commissioner Velto.
In person as well.
We have a quorum of the Reno City Planning Commission.
All right, item A3, public comment. Madam Clerk.
It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the Planning Commission as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the Planning Commission agenda. Please note that the Planning Commission may not take action upon any matter not agendized for possible action on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you are an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment at this time, please raise your hand. Lastly, while in this room, please be respectful. Warnings will be issued by the presiding officer if there is disruptive behavior, and you will be asked to leave chambers if the behavior continues. We did receive correspondence for this item that was forwarded to the Planning Commission and entered into the record. That said, I do not have any request to speak forms for general public comment.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item A4, approval of the agenda. That's for today's agenda, November 5th, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Commissioner Valto, so moved.
Commissioner Becerra, second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda approved. Item A5, approval of the minutes from our October 15th, 2025, 6 p.m. meeting. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Commissioner Becerra, move to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Del Villar, second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item B, staff announcements. Mr. Raley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick announcements. Unfortunately, Jackie Bryant will not be able to attend this evening, so the presentation on CTAX will be rescheduled for a later date. I believe that's item, D1. Also, the only council announcements I have, the South Valleys Park zoning map amendment, which you approved at your last meeting, and High Sierra Gas conditional use permit will go to council next week on the 12th. That CUP, as you recall, because it's a hazardous material CUP, final decision lies with City Council. Just on a housekeeping note, the fact that we're going into the holiday season, if you know that you will not be able to make any of the meetings, either the next meeting in November or the December meetings, if you could let myself or Callie know so that we can make sure if we need council meetings due to lack of quorum that we can do that with some advance notice. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Raley. We will now move on to our public hearing items for the evening. We will take these in order, and we will begin with item C1. This is a staff report for possible action and recommendation to City Council. This is case number TXT 26-00001, childcare. Ms. McAdam, please proceed.
Good evening, Commissioners. Grace McAdam, Senior Management Analyst here for Childcare Text Amendment. All right, so I wanted to start with some background. July 23rd of 2025, so this year, Council initiated a text amendment to remove barriers for childcare providers. This really started, the Children's Cabinet approached some of the council members and just said, look, the environment here for childcare providers is really difficult. We'd like you to do what you can to remove barriers for these providers. And so then they initiated this, asking staff, look at our code, look at what the barriers are, come up with a text amendment to try to remove or at least reduce those barriers. Then from September to October of this year, we attended the NABs, we hosted 2 virtual stakeholder meetings, and all of this to kind of collect public feedback as our kind of public outreach campaign. All right, so I wanted to provide some context. I think anyone who has kids, knows someone who has kids, knows how difficult the childcare environment is in the state of Nevada. So it's just some stats for you to set some context. So 72% of Nevadans live in a childcare desert. What that means is there's more children than there are slots in childcare places. So if you have a kid, I think everyone's familiar with the wait list or how long of a wait list you have to get in because there's not usually currently a spot available for you. And that does include all of the states, so some of the rurals may kind of skew that a little bit, but still a pretty concerning number. And then in between 2018 to 2024, there was a 55% decline in childcare. So notably in these years, they're the COVID years, we saw a bunch of childcare providers and locations close in these times. However, our population didn't decrease, so we're seeing more families, more people come to this region, but unfortunately we saw a decline in these providers. So the situation just is kind of continuously getting worse. And then Nevada is the 8th least affordable state for infant care. Again, this includes the state as a whole, but definitely some concerning statistics. All right, so let's talk about the regulations we have today. So if you were a child care provider and you wanted to open up a facility, kind of what uses do we have? What are the regulations we have? So currently we have 3 separate uses under the child care umbrella. We have in-home child care. This is anything from 5 to 12 children, and that has to be accessory to your primary residence. So these are more residential, they're smaller, and they're typically, or they have to be in somebody's home. And then we have workplace childcare. So this is accessory to a primary business. This is some of those larger facilities, IGT, Patagonia, some well-known facilities that offer childcare for their employees. So again, it's an accessory use. They're offering it kind of as an incentive to their employees. And then we have childcare center. This is a primary use. This is the larger scale Goddard School or Blue Kangaroos that we see around town. And this is anything that basically the other two are not. So when we looked at barriers for providers, I'll get into this more, but our scope is really limited. The licensing happens at the state level. There's also Northern Nevada Public Health is involved. And so planning's not the only barrier, but we wanted to do what we could to reduce barriers that we did have. So we noticed we have a minor conditional use permit or an MUP requirement for all zoning districts for in-home childcare, as well as workplace childcare. And then we require a CUP in residential zones for childcare centers. And all of those also have additional standards that they have to abide by. And so why are these permits considered barriers? Well, ultimately it's time and money and the risk of no guarantee of approval. And so when we talk to childcare providers, it's really difficult for them, especially if they're an in-home childcare provider. They might be offering care for maybe 6 children, and they're having difficulties investing $4,000, 30 days, without knowing that they're going to get an approval. And that was the biggest concern we heard of. It's the risk of not knowing and investing all of that time and money without knowing that we're going to get approval. And a lot of times they're finding out about these requirements after they've already gone to the state, they've gotten their licensing there, and they just didn't know that these requirements existed. And so for both those MUPs, it's a little over $4,000, 30 days, it's a staff review, but no guarantee of approval. And then same thing with a conditional use permit, but it's a 65-day review. It comes to this body for review and approval. It's little under $5,000. And again, there's that risk of the no guarantee of approval. So when we went to draft our ordinance, we thought, okay, we've identified these barriers of the minor conditional use permit and the conditional use permit. But we don't want to just remove these things if they were in place for a reason. So what standards can we add in to make sure that we're mitigating any potential impacts that a daycare might have? And so we removed the minor conditional use permit for both in-home and workplace. We looked at other jurisdictions. We looked at some past childcare providers that we've licensed and that have gone through that minor conditional use permit. And we just put those standards into code. And most of those were fairly limited. And we'll talk about some of those impacts in the next slide. And then for childcare center, we thought it probably makes sense to look at them if they're in a residential zone because these can be fairly large. But we reduced that from a CUP to an MUP to just make it a little bit less impactful. All right, so I said we added some development standards to try to address some of the impacts. So when we think about impacts, it's drop-off and pickup, it's lighting, it's outdoor play, it's screening. And so we added some things in, which are typically conditions of approval that were added at the conditional use permit or minor conditional use permit stage. And we just added those into code. And then we said, and if you can't meet any of these, you go through the minor conditional use permit. So if we need flexibility or if they need flexibility, they can still do it, but we'll have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. And when we talked to some childcare providers, they thought that that was fair. So we have pickup drop-off plans required, so if they have to show us how they're planning to monitor that and how they're planning to regulate that. And each daycare is going to be different, right? So a in-home that has 5 kids is going to be really different than the large childcare center that has hundreds of kids. And then outdoor lighting is limited. It has to be shielded down when adjacent to residential. And then we required a 6-foot-tall fence when adjacent to residential as well. And then outdoor play hour restrictions when adjacent to residential, which I think was pretty common sense. Most kids aren't going to be out at midnight playing. I don't know, maybe. So most of our feedback was really positive. I think people know how big of an issue childcare is. It really touches everybody. So we had a lot of really positive feedback. We did receive some recommendations from a public commenter who recommended some additional buffering. She recommended that the 6-foot-high fence be solid. And those kind of recommendations are laid out in your staff report. There's a table that shows you kind of those recommendations. Staff is comfortable with those. However, I would just be mindful that any kind of additional requirement we put on is just time and money. So just be mindful of whatever standard we put into code that we think about that. So we're at Planning Commission now, obviously. The next step is City Council first reading with your recommendation, with this body's recommendation, December of this year. And then we're hopeful for an adoption in early next year, hopefully January. The recommended motion is on your screen, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
So we will have an opportunity for questions from the commission. We will start with public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak form for this item?
I do not have any requests to speak forms, and we did not receive any other correspondence for this item.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. We will move to questions from the commission. Commissioner Velto.
Yes, thank you. Grace, I have a couple questions for you about the language that's proposed. So in a couple places in the proposed code change, it changed from residential property to residential use. So when it's talking about like lights not going towards residential property, it's now residential use. What is the difference in those words, and why does that change matter?
We're trying to make it consistent with some other things in our zoning code to really differentiate it. Residential use is different from residential zoning. So residential zoning could be a commercial use, but within that residential zone. Conversely, a resident could be, or residents could be zoned something commercial. We see that a lot in like our midtown mixed-use commercial, where we have residents right next to a commercial use, but they're zoned the same thing.
Okay, I think I understand, yeah. I guess my only comment on that would be, that makes a lot of sense if you have residential property that's commercial. I don't think you'd want to restrict someone from having lights shining on the commercial use. I'm more concerned if you have like a non-conforming residential use and us then preventing safety through lighting on a properly zoned commercial use next to it. My only comments on that.
For safety
Yeah,
particular?
safety purposes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you, Chair. Just a clarifying question. Hey, Grace. Are you, I guess, in staff recommending codifying the solid fence with vegetative buffer or leaving it optional under administrative discretion?
Are you referring to the additional buffer that was requested by the public comment we got?
Yeah.
Staff is comfortable with both, so we're leaving it up to this body for what you would recommend to council.
Okay.
So we would be comfortable with either.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, Grace.
Hi.
Hi. I just want to be make certain that
any of the recommendations that we make today, it's not going to impact any of the regulations in terms of safety or hazards or any of the regulatory options that go into childcare and make sure that these children are kind of cared for properly. In fact, it may be improved with this fencing requirement.
Correct, and great question. The state has a lot of regulations as far as the ratios. They also have regulations for the square footage of play area you have to have for each child, as well as the square footage of indoor spaces. So these things are very, very strictly regulated by the state. The most recent code update we did, we tried to more align our standards with the state to say our uses are much more similar, because in the past, it didn't align at all. So we're trying to align more closely with the state because they already do regulate the life safety aspect of these places.
Wonderful, thank you.
Commissioner Del Villar. Hi, Grace. I just want a little bit of a follow-up with the suggestions that came from the public comment, because they're listed here. And are you looking for us to like pick one or recommend all of them, or what sort of are the expectations you and City Council might have from us?
If you wanted to recommend any of them, I just request that you include them in your motion. But if you don't want to recommend any of them, then you could use the motion up on your screen. So it's really at the purview of this body. Like I said, the reason is in the staff report, but the reason staff didn't want to include those in this ordinance is, one, we want to make sure we don't change the ordinance before it comes to Planning Commission, that you see what the public saw, that what they were seeing through the process. But also, some of the recommendations we thought, yeah, they might be fine, but it's just more cost, especially for an in-home childcare. We were comfortable not including them, I guess.
Got it. And do you have a preference, or one that you think makes sense based on master plan and what some of the other regulations we have are?
Nope, if this body did not want to suggest any of those things, we would be comfortable with that. But I wanted to break it down so that you understood what the public commenter was concerned about.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Grace. Commissioner Williams for the record. Hey, I think I know the answer to this question, but I just want to clarify. For those types of communities that are governed by CC&Rs, is there something in the application process that makes the applicant aware before applying that they're to make sure that those kind of fall within, that business use falls within those CC&Rs, if they're allowed or not allowed?
No, not in our process. So we only regulate the public process or the public regulations, and those would be private restrictions. So it would be up to their neighbors or HOA to kind of enforce those restrictions.
Thanks for that. Just clarifying, is there something, we were talking about cost and time and all this kind of stuff, and I totally am pro for this measure. I just think that if something would send that applicant back to double check if they live in something that's regulated might help that process, or stop somebody from spending time with their wheels and money if their CC&Rs do prohibit those types of activities. So is there a checkbox or?
No, it's similar to other, this has come up with some other, it came up with the ADU text amendment we just recently adopted. We don't and we can't enforce those private restrictions, so it becomes to be a very slippery slope if we're requiring them to do a checkbox. Are we then checking that they actually, is it an affidavit? Most of the time, if they're applying for a building permit, it's not actually the owner, it's a contractor applying for the building permit. And so we, especially with the recent process, we looked at other jurisdiction. No one else does that, and I think because they try to keep that very separate with private versus public restrictions. And so it's come up as it could help maybe alleviate some of those process things, but it's just not something that we can do.
Okay, thanks, Grace.
Along those lines, aren't most CC&Rs prohibitive of in-home daycare?
Yes, and I thought that might be where you were leading, but there was a recent bill that would override those CC&Rs, and so if you wanted to open an in-home daycare and it conflicted with your CC&Rs, it would still allow you to open it, but that bill was vetoed. So we'll see where that goes next session.
Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you, Chair. Just another clarifying question, Grace. Does the ordinance, or at least the text amendments, include incentives for adaptive reuse, like taking a vacant retail to childcare conversions, or is it strictly for residential?
So this does include some amendments for all three uses. However, it doesn't offer any incentives. Like I said, our scope is really limited. We don't have the ability to offer very many incentives. And the directive was more to remove the few barriers that we might have. And so this current ordinance would not address any incentives.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. It's really clarifying, but I do appreciate that it aims to remove barriers to childcare. Thanks, Grace.
Commissioner Joachim, one question here. So there's a lot of additional text that we're placing in the childcare in-home section of the proposed amendment. Some of that calls out layout of driveways, circulation patterns, pickup and drop-off plans, and this is all under the section for the in-home stuff that is 5 to 12 children. Can you sort of explain and elaborate on what you might request of an applicant in that scenario for
Yes.
that type of a facility?
Yep, absolutely. So each childcare facility might be different. If it's 5 kids, they really won't need much of a circulation or drop-off and pickup plan. But if it's 12 kids in a pretty congested area, maybe there's a school across the street, we'll want to see how they're addressing it. So is there parking on site? Will there be someone out there kind of shepherding kids in and out of the facility? So we've seen all types of solutions to this problem, but we wanted to make sure we could look at it on a case-by-case basis and make sure that any potential problems could be mitigated.
Okay, so just to make sure I fully understand that, like I've got 3 kids. If we have 2 more, the circulation plan is probably a bit excessive. So
Well, if you're charging your kids, then you have to come up with.
Not yet. So just so I'm clear though, this would fall on staff discretion as to when it might be needed to be implemented in those cases?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Hearing none, we will now move to deliberations. Commissioner Becerra.
Thanks, Chair. Just, again, thank you, Grace and staff, for working on this. I think there were some just, like valid concerns or input from residents about noise and privacy, and made some good recommendations. But I think overall I'm supportive of the direction and encourage council to consider, some of those recommendations from the community. And I think that this is a great set of text amendments being proposed for removing barriers to childcare. So great job.
Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
I have one comment. I guess there was a public comment. I believe it was mentioned in the staff report that there was a concern about the fencing and not allowing it to be see-through. I forget how it was phrased, but I just wanted to state on the record before any motion is made that if I would prefer to see the text amendment be as presented before this body, so it does not require them to have a solid fence. And I recognize that some might feel strongly about that issue, but I think it's a little bit excessively burdensome for an in-home childcare facility to have to go and build potentially an entirely new fence to have a few kids in their house in that type of a setting. So I like it exactly the way it is, and I'd like to see it stay that way as it progresses.
Commissioner Becerra, for the record, just build upon that. Yeah, I was going to actually suggest the other way around, but I agree with Commissioner Jackman there too. I think that the concerns are legitimate, and I think that those concerns and feedback should be taken by council when doing the final review and recommendations. But we do have to strike that balance of removing barriers to childcare, right, and trying to find that kind of middle ground. So I agree with that.
Commissioner Del Villar, so I just want to clarify what I think we're saying is we want to recommend, as this is, that City Council take a look at it with the caveat that these potential stakeholder suggestions stay in here and let City Council determine if that's a direction they want to go in. Is that what I'm understanding? Or are you asking that this
I'm not, so Commissioner Jockman, I'm not suggesting any change to the motion as presented before this body. I just noted in the staff report, there was the stakeholder comment that
Yep.
talked about what we should do with the fence. The staff report sort of requested that we provide some direction in that regard. So I'm just stating it on the record that at least my personal opinion would be to leave it alone. If you can see through the fence, as long as it's a fence, I'm in support of that.
So Commissioner Becerra, maybe a clarifying question on that to Grace and or Mike. Since it's gone from CUP to MUP, right, minor use permit, is there a time, I guess, wherein staff would blatantly say, yeah, you need a solid fence, or no, you're okay with kind of like the traditional slit fence, if you will? Like, is there a time when you guys would recommend a solid fence when reviewing such applications in the future if this were to go through as is?
So just for a reminder, the childcare center will be reduced from a CUP to an MUP.
Correct.
But for in-home and for workplace, the MUP requirement will go away. And so during the building permit process, we can't say that they have to provide a solid fence.
Okay.
So yeah, that would have to be in code if you wanted us to do that.
Okay, so maybe the additional clarifying question to that would be, is there maybe NRS, because you mentioned that there's state level code, right? Like, and I believe it's like 432 or something like that around childcare. Would that cover, fences out of the lens of safety and so forth?
I believe I'm pretty sure it requires a fence, especially for play areas, but I don't think it specifies if it has to be solid.
Okay, all right. Solid, no pun intended. I'm
Any
happy
other?
to make a motion or support a motion.
I hear multiple indications of support for a motion. Do we have any other deliberations any commissioners would like to? Okay, please proceed.
Commissioner Becerra, for the record, in the matter of case number TXT 26-00001, childcare, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to recommend that City Council approve the text amendment by ordinance.
Commissioner Del Villar, I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. We will move on to item C.2, staff report for possible action, case number LDC 25-00068, Jupiter Red Live Entertainment. For this item, we will start with a presentation from staff. Ms. McAdon.
All right, good evening. So switching gears, Grace McAdon again, Senior Management Analyst, here to present for Jupiter Red Live Entertainment. All right, so the subject site is located in Midtown on South Virginia Street, just south of Cheney Street and north of Taylor Street. The applicant is requesting to hold live entertainment after 11 p.m., and that requires the approval of a conditional use permit. This site is zoned mixed-use Midtown commercial. It allows for a bar use 24 hours a day, but as soon as you add in that accessory live entertainment, after 11 p.m., you have to get this conditional use permit. And so the only thing being reviewed, it's not the bar use, it's not the live entertainment before 11 p.m., it's just that live entertainment component after 11 p.m. The master plan is urban mixed use. So some supporting policies that are in our master plan for this case are existing businesses, tourism and entertainment, and activity generating uses. So I think for me personally, when I'm looking at this from a bird's eye view, it's hard to kind of get an idea of what the area looks like. So I just wanted to provide some surrounding photos to give you a better idea of like I said, the area. So the photo on top is actually the subject site, just north of a motel and south of an open lot parking. And they actually share a building with Poor Devils, which is another bar, and they operate live entertainment before 11 p.m., so they do not have a conditional use permit. The bottom photo on the left is a photo of the alley where there is a taco restaurant, some outdoor seating. I did think that this photo was important to include just because it shows that there is some other activity happening on the alleyway, which is closer to that residential. And then on the right on your screen is across the street from the subject site. It's an event venue called Cypress, I believe. And they're actually a live music entertainment venue, so they do have a conditional use permit. So there's a variety of uses that kind of surround this site. So I just want to provide you some better context. So when we talk about security, this has become kind of a talking point of these live entertainment conditional use permits. And so we have what we call a security plan. They've become standard for live entertainment uses. We found that with code enforcement and Reno Police Department, it's the best way to enforce and regulate some of these businesses. So it's important to note, we know that conditional use permits run with the land. So if we approve this conditional use permit here tonight, no matter who the operator is, it will continue to run with that land. It's an entitlement for the land. But the security plan runs with the business license, and that's really important to remember here, because it allows us with new businesses coming in to look at them with, each business is different. They have different operations, and so it allows us to modify those security plans with each business. The security plan is required to address at a minimum, and this was, like I said, created with Reno Police Department and code enforcement. It's required to address security staffing and procedures, queuing of patrons, hours of operation, exterior lighting, and then procedures to prevent loitering. Noise was another issue we looked at when analyzing this request. Condition 4 allows us to require additional mitigation if we receive any complaints. This application came in earlier this summer, and we had received, before the application was submitted, we had received a number of complaints regarding noise and security and just some general issues that were observed from this business. So since then, we've been monitoring, along with RPD and code enforcement, this business really closely all throughout the summer. And RPD and code enforcement have gone out a number of times. They've gone out in plain clothes. They've gone out, with they've done their drive-bys in the squad cars, and they've seen no violations of concerns. They've actually told us that the security here is top-notch, that they're doing everything they should be doing. So that really helps staff be a little bit more comfortable. All right, so here's the findings associated with this application. The project meets all of the required findings. And the recommended motion is on your screen. The applicant is here with a presentation if this council or this body would like to hear it.
Do we have a presentation from the applicant? Please step forward, state your name for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eddie Arista. I'm one of the owners of Jupiter Red. My brother's not able to attend because he has another business, so I'll be here as the main representative today.
There you go.
So we started this venture, my brother and I, about a year ago. We've been in it for about a year. It's been a kind of a learning experience, as this has only been our first bar operations. I work in the food industry, and my brother is a barbershop owner, so it's definitely a different pace. But me coming in as a kind of in the food industry kind of gave me a little bit of an idea of how I should possibly run a bar. We wanted to create something in Midtown that was lively for everyone. I noticed that for months, the Midtown bars and scene was a lounge place, which I love, the lounge where everybody can relax, have fun, unwind after a hard week or middle of the week. So we wanted to maintain that the aspect of Midtown. So we do offer the relaxed pace, and then we did want to offer the live entertainment as well, because I think that was lacking in Midtown, and so something that we would be able to capitalize in and be able to bring a new flavor to Midtown. And so today we are here to ask for a conditional use permit, because we do want to have that nightlife aspect continue past 11 p.m. as those are when our highest sales, about 95% of our sales are accumulated. And so we want to bring in talent. There is a there is a live entertainment place, the Cypress. Then they bring live talent, and I believe every week they schedule it out. And so we wanted to bring live talent and be able to continue that live entertainment, nightlife aspect in Midtown. And so we are different in the fact that we're a very artsy bar. If you guys have ever been or seen any of the pictures, we support local artists. So he's done a couple numerous murals inside the bar, and he actually did a mural at UNR recently as well. So we support local artists, not just drawing, but artists, DJs, and all that stuff, just to bring them some noticing. And we are committed into making sure that it's a safe environment for not only the patrons but our staff, and that's key for it. That's the first priority for us, is to make sure that all our patrons are safe and they feel comfortable. And so as the night goes on, we know that things get a little bit crazier. Things, especially a couple years now with downtown being all pretty crazy with nightclubs and all that. So I personally didn't want to make that mistake, as I've seen a lot of cases here of bars shutting down because of maybe not well security plans, written security plans, and performed by their employees and the operators. We are in the mixed commercial use, as Grace stated, and surrounded by a lot of the bars. It's basically a strip of continuous bars, and we happen to be right at the heart of it, where Pinion, Bottle Co. is, Death and Taxes. A lot of the surrounding bars are around us. And so we want to continue making that impact in Midtown, as I know it's going to help continue the economic growth, and we've seen a lot of kind of downturn on the nightlife scene recently. It used to be very vibrant back in the day, a few years ago, and now it's kind of just diminished. Let's see, security and operations plan. We did include an extensive and very detailed security plan. So we have our signs of no weapons or knives or anything used. We do have a line to control the flow of traffic as well, and capacity. And we do have metal detector wands, and we also pat down people. So we do both. We check women and men, bags, everything. And if they have sweaters on or anything like that, we usually have them take them off and make sure they don't have anything. Again, the priority is to make sure our staff are safe, and our patrons as well, and everybody's enjoying a good time and goes home safe, and unwinds after a heavy weekday. We do have strict no taking in drinks or drinks out of the venue, so we're pretty adamant about that, and we have security right in front of the door to make sure no one's leaving with, or if they do, we just make sure we tell them, hey, you got to toss this out. We do have cameras too, so we have cameras outside the venue, and then inside, and then we just put a camera in the alleyway as well, because that was a blind side for us, and we just want to make sure everything's good. So we have numerous cameras to make sure if anything were to happen, we have footage and all that. This is just all of what I just said earlier. So we're gonna skip through these. The site photos, Grace showed them. We're right next to a motel, and then right across the street from Cypress, taco shop behind us, Death and Taxes behind us, and Bottle Co. Here's the front door. And here's the inside of the place. As you can see some of the murals of that local artist. Here's another site location. And that's it. Thank you.
If that concludes your presentation, we will now move to public comment on this item. Madam Clerk?
I do have a few requests to speak forms in front of me. First up is Samantha Romanek.
Please step forward and state your name. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Samantha Romanek. I am a resident that resides right behind the bar, and I also work at 6 a.m. Monday through Friday from home. The bars already around the block are very noisy as it is, and to add to the noise will make a restless night for me in preparation for work every day. And I also have a dog who also gets a little anxious with all the noise, which also gives restless sleep to her as well as me. So I'm in opposition for this. Thank you.
All right, next up I have Jeff. Gonna let you say your last name for the record, Jeff.
Last name, Anakatumpunya. Good evening, Council.
Could you please state your name again?
Jeff Anakatumpunya.
Thank you.
So I live right behind the bar across the alleyway, and again, it's just noisy. To mitigate that, I went and got a noisemaker, white noisemaker, and still sometimes I can hear bass over the noisemaker at night during sleeping hours. So I am in opposition to this.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Next up I have Lori Soltis.
Good evening, and thank you for giving us this forum to speak. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Lori Soltis. I live directly behind the Jupiter Red Bar. If you can flash up the pictures, I can show you exactly where my house is, because I feel like that wasn't discussed. I live next door to Jeff. I just want to show the location. We're literally across the alley.
You can put it on the projector next to you. That's it's on the,
If
to
you
the side of the desk.
If you have a photo, you can,
Oh, no, it was on the other presentation from Grace.
Oh, 1 second.
So when it showed the taco shop, you can see the white roof line. That's my house. Right there behind the umbrellas. So directly across, so our garage is directly across from the property. That also has an outdoor space that's also shared with Poor Devil. So both bars have been quite noisy. So since their opening, amplified DJ music with heavy bass is played from 9 p.m. until roughly 4 a.m., Thursday through Sunday. Despite multiple complaints, enforcement has not seemed to resolve this. The business is now requesting a live music permit. If approved without conditions, this will increase noise and extend disruption. Additional concerns include the alley behind. In between is marked no parking. There's cars routinely parked there, preventing access to our garage and creating fire hazards. So we've already filed multiple complaints about noise, parking, other issues. So the team here has been responsive, but lately, I feel like since there's been a lot of layoffs, we're just not getting the responsiveness that we had hoped for in the past. So we've also seen increased vandalisms with, I guess, graffiti on our buildings and in the alleyway. We've seen fights, and there's been a recent shooting nearby. I'm not sure if it's related, but it's just interesting that it's all kind of happening within that alley space. And then patrons do linger outside with loud music and car stereos in the parking lot, where they're accessing the back alley entrance to the business. So I asked the council to enforce existing ordinances before granting new permits. For example, no outdoor sound after 10 p.m., enforceable decibel limits, parking management, and penalties for violations, and also a pathway to file complaints and understand how to get a response. We've tried dialing 911, and they say there is no ordinance in Midtown. So we're just not quite sure how to proceed. Like my neighbors have said, we're losing sleep. I also get up at 5 a.m., so the music stops around 3:30. They drop their glass around 4, and then I get up at 5. So it's just been really tough the last year since they've opened. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
I have one more from Susan Mantle.
Hello.
Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Susan Mantle. I have a business and a home on Holcomb Avenue, 2 blocks from where all of this is happening. When all of the music starts happening and is, okay, there is a lot of music going on, and I'm fully in favor of it. But our whole neighborhood is impacted. And I am one of the members of West of Wells Neighborhood Watch, and we've been there for 20 years. These issues that we are having are because of what happens after hours with people racing up and down the streets. Once the bars close, everybody goes home except the neighborhood, and the neighborhood stays and deals with all the afterflow and the speeding cars up and down from people drinking, fighting, crashing. We just had somebody crash into the corner. Taylor and Cheney Cheney and Holcomb, right there, has become a real problem with car accidents and road rage. We have residential neighborhoods on both sides sandwiching Midtown. Those are all people who are working and living and going to school and having kids and trying to have a normal life. And we are just blocks away from it. And we are doing our best to adapt, but at the same time, we need to have some kind of responsibility when it comes to having some quiet time. Like, I'm fully in favor of you doing the club, having music, but it's the 11 p.m. till 3 a.m. part that is bothering us. After that, we have no peace and quiet. It doesn't end then. And believe me, if I am in my home, and they are doing something there on Cheney Street, 2 blocks from me, I feel I am like in the first row at the concert. I can hear everything. I don't even need to go. So there's all kinds of things with noise mostly, trash. Our whole neighborhood has been taken over with parked cars because there's not adequate parking. People just take up the entire streets, and then when they come back from their drinking, they are partying. They do not stop then. So anyway, like I said, I support the arts. I like Midtown. We did Pride. That was our very biggest event, and that was nonstop noise and traffic. And we just do our best to deal with it. But it's a bit much. Thank you. That's 11 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Madam Clerk, do we have any other requests to speak forms?
With that, I do not have any other requests to speak forms. I do not have any attendees in Zoom with their hand raised at this time. Can I just check? Commissioner Becerra, are you seeing an error message on your screen?
I am, ma'am. It's,
Okay.
yeah, I was about to write you as well.
Okay, sorry about that. We're trying to get that fixed. But everyone on watching live should be able to see everything, but the Zoom, there's something wrong with the Zoom feed.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Do we have any other requests to speak in chambers? I guess starting from anyone except the applicant. And we have a request from the applicant to provide a public comment. That's a first for me. Is that something we afford the applicant, or do we?
You may afford the applicant the opportunity to speak, or if you have specific questions for the applicant, you can.
Right, obviously under questions. So if you have something you would like to add, wait for a question. I'm sure there will be a few, and then you can address it at that time.
Okay. It was just for them. Just
Sure.
very brief.
Sure. So we will now move to disclosure, starting with Commissioner Velto.
Commissioner Velto, familiar with the area, spoke with a citizen in support of the project.
Commissioner Del Villar read and received all the material and am familiar with the location and site.
Commissioner Gonfiantini read and reviewed all the materials, met personally with the applicant at his location. I also live in the neighborhood.
Commissioner Jockman, same as Commissioner Del Villar.
Commissioner Williams, read and reviewed the material and familiar with the area.
Commissioner Rohrmeyer, same.
Commissioner Becerra.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Becerra read and reviewed the material and very familiar with the area.
Okay, we will now move to questions from the commission. Commissioner Velto.
Yes, thank you. Grace, I have some questions for you. So I'm trying to understand what is allowed in the surrounding areas. Cypress, what time are they allowed to play music until?
Yeah, and this is where it gets really difficult. And we've had these discussions for a while now. Our regulations have changed over the years. And so because these run with the land, they've been grandfathered at different hours, different requirements. And so I did try to do some surrounding area research. It looks like Cypress is able to operate until 2 a.m., but that's not consistent with some of the other bars and nightclubs in the area, just because it's a little patchworky.
What about the Emerson? Does the Emerson have a CUP or a cabaret license they can go till a certain time?
You know, I'm not sure on the Emerson, so I'd have to double check on that one.
Okay. Are there any other ones that are closer than Cypress that have to shut down before 2 a.m.?
So Poor Devil within the same building, they just did not request to go past 11 p.m. And so they operate past 11 p.m., but they close their live entertainment before 11.
Okay. And then there were some emails from, it seemed like the owner of like another bar down the street, and they were thinking that this bar was having DJs till after 11.
Mm-hmm.
Was that confirmed? Do you know if?
There were some violations, but after those were found, we had our code enforcement and RPD go out, and after they were kind of cited, they hadn't been able to notice any of those violations. But I will note the tricky thing, and we've talked about this before, is a bar can operate by right 24/7. And so we get really into that gray area with what's live entertainment. It's not music necessarily, so you can play music, but it's that DJ or dancing after 11 p.m. And so there might be bars operating with music past 11 p.m., but it might not meet our threshold of live entertainment.
Understood. So this bar could have music until any time.
Correct. It's that live entertainment component.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Becerra, I can no longer see you on the Zoom, so if you have a comment, just please speak up at any time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. And probably just a continuation of Chair or Commissioner Velto's line of questioning, Grace, around the hours and all that. Did RPD give their recommendation on hours? Because I know they've done that before on similar applications before, but do they have an explicit position on this one?
Not explicit to the hours. That will be included in the security plan, and RPD will work closely with them with what they're comfortable with. And then we can scale that back if it ends up being a problem. So if they're operating until 2 or 3 a.m. And RPD has concerns with that, we can scale that back with the security plan.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, they've been doing really good work, RPD, on that, and those plans, like you mentioned, like it's kind of been like a consistent thing with these applications. But given that there was one or several residents, raised concern about the noise, and I do appreciate that the applicant is kind of being proactive with trying to mitigate the noise. Should they have concerns, just so they know, since I believe that they're there, what can they do and others, whether it's this or other issues, to make their concerns known so they can be more proactive with any noise issues? Like, do they call 911 or do they call Reno Direct, or how do they make sure that their concerns are recorded and they're supported?
Sure. Well, calling 911 is difficult for a noise complaint because I think sometimes on the priority level of what they might be dealing with, it might fall to the bottom of that. And we found that regulating noise can be very difficult because they might not be there during the noise complaint. So we would prefer that these complaints go into our code enforcement, the Reno Direct line, and then we can we have noise meters that we can attach to a light pole, and so they can kind of monitor it for maybe 48 hours or a weekend, because in the past, we were sending a code enforcement officer out there, and they would hold the noise meter, and they wouldn't get an issue. And so we're trying to get better at how we regulate these, but it's an issue throughout the city, just because of enforcement, and how, especially for noise.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good, and hopefully that kind of helps the folks sitting there, and I think that the security plan in coordination with RPD will hopefully help, and so thank you for that. And I do have a couple questions for the applicant, but I'll kind of step back so others can ask their questions as well.
Commissioner Giacomin, I'll ask a question here. So for me, this is kind of a question about the zoning. And I guess before I ask this question, Commissioner Rohrmeyer, as we advance into deliberations here, I'd be curious for your thoughts on this one. We reviewed an application that was similar to this many months ago, and we had similar comments that we saw from the community in opposition about noise. When I review this application, I noticed that, you know, in contrast with that application, this is not in an entertainment district. This is in Midtown. And when I look at the nearby zoning of some of those residential properties, it is also zoned in the same way. It's not residential zoning, but we are fairly close to residential zoning. Particularly, one of the comments came in on Holcomb. I believe everything to the east of Holcomb is zoned residential. So how should I look at that when reviewing this application, given that we're not residentially adjacent, but we're somewhat close to a lot of residentially zoned properties?
Sure. Staff looked at this when I analyzed this application. And what we see, especially with kind of the development pattern that's existing, is Virginia Street is an entertainment core for the city. And there's live entertainment venues, bars kind of surrounding that Virginia Street area. It's patchwork of uses like we see in any kind of downtown or midtown area, which is why we see this conflict sometimes of those uses. But we looked at Virginia Street really being a corridor for entertainment and bars. And so that was kind of how we got there for this particular one.
And I guess a follow-up question to that. So a lot of the other businesses along that corridor, Virginia Street in Midtown, are they afforded the same, CUP opportunity to have live entertainment past 11 with similar adjacency to residentially zoned parcels?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Del Villar.
This is Commissioner Del Villar for you, Grace. And I have some things I'll bring up in discussion, but I just wanted clarification. So the applicant is looking for 11 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Go ahead.
But just for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Is that what I'm understanding? Or is that's how it's written right now, correct?
That was the request, but through, like we talked about with these issues with multiple bars having different standards and different requirements, the kind of direction is to make it more consistent so that each bar has the same requirements and the same regulations. And that makes it easier for enforcement too. And so hours will be addressed in that security plan. We can modify it through there. And that was another issue was, some of these bars might be awarded till 3 a.m., and we find that's a problem. But we can't scale it back unless they choose to amend their conditional use permit. And so we don't address hours in this conditional use permit, but we require them to address it in the security plan.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a question for the applicant. So I appreciate you coming. This is, I think, the fourth one of these I've heard in my time on the Planning Commission. And the case by case, we review them. Can you tell us what you think forecast-wise, like how many customers do you typically have on, say, a Friday night or a Saturday night? How many more customers would you anticipate with the live entertainment? So we know what we're talking about.
Well, I would say we've become kind of a little bit popular. which I never anticipated, to be honest. So we see an influx. I can't really tell you an amount. I can only tell you directly from the sales, depending. But most of our sales revenue and is made through that time 11, past 11 o'clock. And so basically, I would say that maybe there's a 100 Friday and Saturday. It comes and goes depending on events. Big events like the Pride event or the Midtown. I forgot what it's called, Dancing in the Streets. And Halloween. So we usually get more people coming in and out during big events like that.
But my question is specifically to the live entertainment that you're planning to add to your business between the hours of 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. Are you expecting 20% growth, 40% growth? Do you have some estimate of maybe the number or increase of customers? Because I think that correlates to the issues and tensions with the neighbors. So if we're talking about you're doubling the capacity or something like that, that's a very different situation than maybe 5 additional people. What do you foresee being the difference?
It's really hard to speculate on numbers because it's never been proven. Unless we were to get the live entertainment permit, then I'd be able to see the data of the increase of that. So as of right now, I can't really predict a specific percentage on how the live entertainment would increase it, but if I could, 10 to 20%, maybe 30.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you, Chair. And this is for the applicant as well, so if you'd like to just hang out there, and I'll try to, I think there's a common theme here. How does your security team, I guess, anticipate or maybe currently manage late night patron dispersal, at the current hour and then at the proposed 3 a.m. hour to kind of reduce the loitering and the noise along the business corridor, or at least your business corridor, which is like Virginia and Cheney, especially given the resident concerns we just heard during public comment this evening?
Yes, so whenever we close, so obviously we have the security, we have the line directing the flow of traffic in and out. Checking everybody, how they are supposed to, metal detector, all that, and making sure the capacity. We have a machine that checks our capacity per every patron that comes in and out. And so we're on the clock on that as well. And whenever we close operations, which is usually like around 2 a.m., we really try not to go past that. We have, we make sure that there's no loitering, so we tell the patrons, we block off the not the sidewalk, but there's a place in the front. I don't know if you can pull it up, maybe zoom in or not. I'm not sure.
And I do know it actually really well. I think you guys are
okay. Yeah, so in the front,
across the street from Shays and the Sticks or Two Chicks, like it's that corridor, right?
yeah, so in the front, so no one can go out through the back. That's or in or out. So they can only come in through the front.
Okay.
We noticed that there was an issue in the front, and so whenever we're about to close, we block that off with the the posts, and so we make sure that we direct the flow outward, and there's no loitering. So we make sure that, or we try to make sure that that no patrons are just hanging out in there, causing issues, because you never know, like one bad bump or something, can cause an issue. So we just want to make sure that the patrons are going out safe and, going home.
Okay, good. And then kind of on that, just a follow-up question with that. Like, how do you plan to engage with the neighbors, or maybe you're doing it already, especially Carriage Stone and the folks there in Chambers now, to ensure that, like, just mutual communication on noise or safety issues are are communicated?
Yeah, so I actually had a kind of like, I wanted to talk to them about.
Okay.
I didn't know about this issue with the noise complaint, so I want to personally say I'm sorry and apologize, because I know that's like a red flag. I mean, I work really early as well too, 4 a.m. I wake up, and this is not my only job, so I would like to say I apologize. And I know you guys have lives, we all have lives, and it's important to listen to other people and find ways to kind of work together. This is my livelihood, so I do support my 2 kids and my wife. And so I just want to make sure that I'm able to get your guys' story as well. And for me, I'm a guy that likes to figure out a solution for everything. Because at the end of the day, I have to make sure that we are making the community better. And if
Could you please direct your comments closer to the microphone? I'm
Yeah,
not sure
sorry.
we're picking all of that up.
Sorry, so I just want to make sure that, I'm able to see the sides of everybody, because I do like to figure out solutions and work together, so that we can build a better community and figure out ways to reduce the sound. If we have to close out earlier, that's fine with me as well. I'm really not wanting to close past 3 a.m. because, I want to make sure everything's better. Obviously, I can't control the other businesses around me. I know that they close way later than us, and so, like if I can work with you guys and figure out a way to find middle ground, I'd love to. Like I said, I feel like there's always a solution to everything, but
Great.
I didn't want to take the time to apologize.
Well, mad respect to you, sir, and I think you're on the right step there. So I applaud you.
Commissioner Velto.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I haven't been inside Jupiter Red. I've seen it from the outside. Can you kind of tell us how big is that space compared to Cypress?
I don't know. I think I've only been at Cypress one time, but when I've been in there, it's been pretty packed.
Let me ask a different question. What's the capacity?
The capacity, I believe it's 80-ish,
Okay.
74, 76. I'd have to see the capacity occupancy certificate.
So
It's a pretty small bar. It's not like 10,000 square feet.
understood, and that's kind of my impression. I'm just trying to understand, because you were asked earlier by Commissioner Rohrmeyer about, what percentage of increase do you think this will yield for your bar? When I have seen the bar from the outside, it does seem like it's quite filled. So, I mean, how often are you at capacity or close to capacity on a Friday, Saturday night?
Usually every Friday and Saturday. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, it's low. Business fluctuates, sometimes way less than that. So it depends.
Do you envision the type of music that you're able to, could you put a 10-piece band in this spot? I'm trying to understand what type of live entertainment is feasible within your business.
But we're mostly known for our Latin music. We do obviously bachata, salsa, cumbia, and all the Latin. And we actually do host classes for free Wednesday and Thursdays. So we actually don't close past 3 a.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We actually close around midnight. Friday and Saturday obviously are better days, busier days.
But do you envision there being a Latin band in your space, or is it more there's going to be a DJ?
Yeah,
okay.
we've had a few offers from Latin bands, but obviously we can't do anything right now,
Yeah.
and DJ. So, obviously that's kind of the next step
Sure.
to evolving the brand, and so we've had a lot of offers actually, emails, wondering if they can play there, and actually some out of state too as well.
Okay, awesome.
So I think it could be it has a lot of potential to be something more. Just feel right now it's kind of a little on the fence.
Sure, yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Rohrmeyer.
Just to clarify, you are able to have those bans up until 11 p.m.
Yes.
currently. You just are not opting to do that because it's not long enough?
No, so that's, so I don't know if you guys remember that I did want to incorporate the lounge feel of Midtown. So we have a split, so we're kind of like a hybrid bar where we include the lounge part from like 7 to when we're not allowed to 11 p.m. Because usually, like, you know, we do have older folks coming in, you know, obviously they're not going to stay there till 2 a.m. Some older folks like to just stay a couple hours and then go. We do get a lot of our younger crowd during past 11 p.m.
Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to kind of follow up with Commissioner Belto and Rohrmeyer there. And it's for the applicant. And for the record, I'm probably part of that older crowd that would leave after 2 hours. Just because that's where I'm at in life, I suppose. But, if you recall, like prior to this, we were just kind of discussing life as a parent around removing childcare access barriers and so forth, and the importance of supporting families. And it sounds like there are some adjoining families as residents near your business. And it sounds like Fridays and Saturdays are kind of like your bigger nights right now, especially with the anticipated 15-20% uptick that you project if you had live music. Would it be prudent to consider like leaving Thursdays at the current 11 p.m. hour and over time, like a 6-month period or some period that you and RPD and others agree to, can say, oh, you know, time's gone by, we're being good neighbors, and now we can graduate Thursdays to that same hour of 2 or 3 a.m. as Friday and Saturdays. Would you be open to something like that as good faith, or just something to consider? Or and it's a question not just to the applicant, but maybe thoughts for the rest of the commission as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm more than willing to work with the residents behind us. I'm willing to have Wednesdays and Fridays be shut down by like midnight, because I know that's during the week. It's a heavy week. Everybody works, so yeah,
Right.
definitely.
You mean Wednesdays and Thursdays?
Yeah, Wednesdays and Thursdays,
Okay.
as those are our slower days.
Okay. Yeah, and again, like you can work it out, like where you graduate towards something. If you know everyone's good with everything, then you just essentially graduate to those hours for the other day or days that your original application sought. But that's just kind of a question, just some fodder for thought for the rest of the commission as well.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Commissioner Delviar.
Okay, Commissioner Delviar. So how, I guess, question for either Mike or Carl, how would that actually work if we have a motion that we say on a trial basis for 6 months, and if everything is fine, then they can expand? Oh,
Can I do a recommendation on that? I'm sorry. Go- I think, oh, please.
Yeah, let me just, from process-wise,
Yes,
how
thank
that
you.
would work.
Thank you.
Like we talked about, the Grace McInerney, again, Senior Management Analyst, the hours will be addressed in that security plan. So they do allow us to kind of modify them with time. But I don't think it would be a condition of approval, because then we would have to come back to this body to amend those hours. So I would just recommend it's more of a recommendation to the applicant to put that in their security plan.
Understood, thank you.
Can I, real quick, sorry to follow up on that. What if we said there will be a security plan, the security plan will be able to, like we set terms of the security plan for 6 months and then allow the security plan to make its own modifications in that process if it determines that, like, it should do that? Would that work?
You can do that. I don't know that I've seen that before as far as, and I'm just thinking of when we come back to this conditional use permit and we're trying to enforce these conditions, how that looks. So I just would be very careful with the wording there. I think it would be kind of tricky, but.
I'm just more trying to capture what kind of Commissioner Becerra was suggesting while still giving discretion to the security plan concept.
And I can say, the security plan would be required before they could amend their hours for we call it cabaret at the business license standpoint. So we could just, tell this commission that we would put the 11 PM and hour on Wednesdays and Thursdays for maybe a 6-month period and then readdress with RPD. But it just wouldn't make a ton of sense in the condition, I guess. Does that help?
Yeah, that does help.
Yeah, Commissioner Becerra, for the record, that does help as well, Grace. And whatever is low friction, it's all in good faith here. I mean, we heard it from the applicant and appreciate Commissioner Belto's follow-up there and Roy Myers. It's all in good faith. So whatever streamlines the process, I'm all for. If there's bad faith in play later on, I think we'll be notified of that. And I just doubt that will be the case, or at least I hope not.
Commissioner Jockman, I have one, it's more of a housekeeping item. So in the staff report, it was mentioned that conditions 7 through 9 were sort of specific to this applicant. Condition 8 includes some text that says security personnel shall be stationed outside of the building to enforce order. I was a little confused about, and this is for staff, I was a little confused about how that should be interpreted. Is that tied to specific hours that we're approving in the CUP? Can you elaborate on that a little bit, or should we add some specificity to that condition?
Yeah, so this is kind of a standard condition we've seen with some other live entertainment uses that have come through. You definitely can add some specificity for the hours that we're requesting, but we worked with our business license division on these conditions, and we modified, I believe we modified this condition just because those hours are going to become up with later in that security plan. And so it will work in tandem with that, but we know that one of the concerns was kind of the patrons. We've heard that it's not necessarily when they're in the bar, but it's when they all stumble out of the bar. So we wanted to make sure that that was addressed. And so we did work to make it a little bit more broad so that it addressed any hour of operation.
So a follow-up question to that, I guess, and this may end up in deliberations, but would it be reasonable to modify the condition in the way such that security personnel shall be stationed outside of the building when live entertainment is taking place, or something to that extent, so that it's tied to a specific time of operations?
Definitely, any specifics that you add, I think could be helpful for enforcement.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Williams.
Grace, I have something for you. Sorry. Commissioner Williams, for the record, just going back just a couple steps, I think Commissioner Chair Jockman mentioned it. One of the first ones I sat on in this commission was a sound ordinance. They were required to do a sound study and then make improvements to the building. Is there something, is this not the right district for that, or is there stipulations that require that we're not seeing in other venues like this?
Yeah, no, so there's been obviously a lot of discussion about a noise ordinance potentially in these areas. And what we're seeing, we're trying to learn as we see more of these come through, but the enforcement of those is just really difficult. I think a good example is years and years ago, maybe in the 90s, we required a bar to put up a sound curtain for noise, and it was a condition of approval. It turns out that's an extreme fire hazard for exiting, ingress and egress. And so it's one of those things where, do we require the applicant to modify the conditional use permit? And so with the noise, we're trying to maybe regulate that as a separate issue with potentially a noise ordinance or something that's maybe more citywide, so we can amend it with the times and keep it more up to date. And that's why this particular one, and potentially bars going forward, won't require that noise ordinance or noise study.
If we have no further questions from the commission, we will now, do we have one?
I can save it. It's a proposed condition, so I'll defer to you if we want to discuss first, and then I can ask if we get there as a...
Let's move into the deliberations, so please proceed.
Sure. So I'm comfortable with the application. I appreciate that the applicant is willing to make some concessions in response to some of our concerns, and also express remorse and concerned for the neighbors. I look at this really as their surrounding area, there is live music. Cypress is right across the street. My impression of this venue is that this venue is much smaller than Cypress. Cypress is a large venue, has loud music, loud bands, and it's right next to it. So when I look at compatibility, I think this is compatible. One of the things I like that Commissioner Becerra suggested that it sounds like the applicant is agreeable to is modifying condition number 6 to, when we're talking about the security plan, possibly putting in like a sunset that's automatic on Monday through Thursday, say that they have to get out, turn off live music by 11 p.m. And then after 6 months, if the zoning administrator does not decide otherwise, that would fall off. So it gives an opportunity, if there's an issue that comes up in that 6-month period, those nights would be precluded. Those nights could be restricted going further, but if not, that would fall off. So I think that's a way to kind of prevent the security plan from being too arduous, but still creating some sort of checks and balances in the interim. But other than that, I feel comfortable with this project, and I think it's good to have live music and these types of businesses going on in Midtown.
Commissioner Del Villar, I agree with what Commissioner Velto said and also what Commissioner Becerra recommended. It's always hard for us because this is where this bar and venue is in this area that allows for 24/7 music and serving of alcohol. But I also appreciate and understand the public's input as well. And it's hard because a lot of the things that I'm hearing are things that are sort of out of control potentially of the applicant. So this is why I was saying I'll bring this up in discussion. I think to your point, Grace, we probably need to focus on having a noise ordinance. And a lot of the complaints that I hear are more on the bass, like the sound and the pressure versus the noise itself. And right now that's not part of the noise ordinance that we have and the decibel limits and things like that. So it's hard for me to find anything in opposition to this. However, again, if there's trash, if there's loitering, if there's fights, if the noise is obviously a problem, parking is a problem. But again, that seems more of a Reno enforcement issue that we need to somehow potentially start looking at. I don't know what that looks like, but it doesn't have to do with this application itself. So maybe later on when we get to recommendations, I can bring it up again.
Commissioner Becerra, I think you had your hand raised.
I do. Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to say I too am comfortable with this application and the mitigation steps and anticipated security plan being sought. And I implore the applicant to stay true to their commitment tonight, not just to us, but the residents, about being a good neighbor, particularly around the sound topic. And I appreciate all of you in just the complimentary discussion on this application, which really does help make it better for the applicant and the residents. And I'm happy to support a motion of support when the time comes, and however that takes shape with amendments or not.
Commissioner Rohrmeyer.
Sure. I appreciate where the city's going with the new security plan in terms of timing and being able to make modifications, I think in a much easier format than coming before this board. This is on Virginia Street. The reality is that's our most urban corridor. That's the backbone of our city, and this is where these sorts of uses actually do belong. We are talking about 5 blocks from 24-hour casinos with lots of lights and noise, and I would have a hard time imposing restrictions if the bar already has 24-hour operations. We're talking about live music. Now that said, so you have my support in full. Like, I'm not going to support restrictions on weeknights. That's me personally. If the board goes that way, that's fine. I do find that the applicants should have a very clear understanding of what their operations should be. And this is something that's not just this applicant, it's been, like I said, 4 others that we've reviewed. You should know what time the bands start. You should know how many patrons you can expect. If you're at max capacity at 80 and you're already there on Friday and Saturday nights, then this wouldn't add any additional people to the neighborhood. But if you anticipate a 40 or 50% occupancy increase, then there should be a real strategic plan. So I think it's those kinds of details that really make the difference of, us approving something with uncertainty and us being able to support projects. So having a very clear execution of your business makes a huge difference in our ability to review. But in terms of Thursday night, I don't know, this is Virginia Street. This is where these activities belong.
Commissioner Jockman, I'll say one thing. First off, I'm certainly in support of I'm just hearing that now from Commissioner Rohrmeyer, but I was certainly in support of Commissioner Becerra's suggestion to modify a condition based on the day of week. The only slight concern I have on this one is that it goes back to condition 8. So we've got security personnel. I would like to see that condition modified to be such that it's tied to the event operations of live music. I think that would be appropriate. And the reason for this is that the sidewalk width is a little bit narrow in that location in contrast with a lot of other places in Midtown. So if you have a live event, you're going to have patrons spilling onto the sidewalk. The sidewalk's a little bit more narrow there. They're going to end up potentially spilling onto the street. So in the event, when you have an at-capacity event in that location, I think it would be good to always have the security personnel for those live events. So I would like to see that condition modified just to tie it specifically so that we don't need to interpret it as having security personnel at 12 lunchtime when there's nothing going on, and also when you don't have an event. It makes sense to tie it to a time. So I'd be curious if other members of the commission have any thoughts on that. I'd like to see that in the motion.
Yeah, can I just get some clarity on that? So I just want to be, you want the condition number 8 to be amended to specify that security personnel shall be stationed outside the building solely when live music is.
I don't think we need to say solely, but when live music events are in operation. Let me get the.
Does that negate their security personnel on non-live events when they just have a long queue?
I think we should tie it to the live events, not solely to the live events, so that maybe there's, I don't want to answer a question with a question here, but are you suggesting that we get specific to hours of operation as well with that? Or I think personally that the greatest events at the facility will be when you have live music. So that will be your greatest amount of patrons. That's when you have your greatest potential for pedestrian overflow.
Yeah, I appreciate that logic, but it sounds like on Friday and Saturday night, sometimes they're at capacity anyway, and they should probably have outdoor security at that point.
If I can chime in just real quick, I think that's part of the reason for the security plan is that goes through RPD and code enforcement. They're aware of issues that are occurring, and it allows them the flexibility to address what they're seeing actually happening at the facility. I think, as planning staff, we defer to them as the experts on the security aspect of where they need to be stationed. But Grace, I think, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, just one comment as far as the condition. It's worded particularly to address patrons awaiting entrance. So if it's noon on a Friday and it's mostly to address the queuing, to make sure that people waiting to enter and leaving are kind of doing so in an orderly manner. So if there's, and I appreciate that maybe it could be more specific, but it's more targeted towards when there's people waiting to enter and leave the building. I don't know if that helps.
I hear what you're saying, but theoretically, if there's someone at the door checking IDs, there's always a queue, even if it's only 1 or 2 people. What if we just said security personnel will be subject to the security plan, and then let the security plan figure it out?
And we could strike this condition because we already have the requirements for the security plan. So if it's causing some consternation, we can just defer to the security plan for that.
I'm okay with that.
Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, clarity breeds predictability. So I do agree with the level of specificity that Chair Jackman is seeking with security personnel condition, with the security personnel condition, if it helps streamline things while also not sacrificing safety. But also, like, if staff and RPD feel comfortable with the current language because it'll be addressed in that security plan, then I'm okay with that too. So just, but if, that security plan won't address that, then I would be in support of the specificity that Chair Jackman is seeking.
Hearing that the police are supportive of that in either way gives me some comfort. I will concede that. I think it still wouldn't hurt to put that in there, just saying during live events at a minimum, so that we know that there is enough specificity there such that security personnel will be there when they have live events, given the width of the sidewalk. So hearing that, Ms. McAdam, you said basically it's going to amount to the same thing from police. I think if we add that and there's no objections to it, let's move forward with that. Stating it's at a minimum, so it's not a ceiling for the condition, but it ensures that it's in there at every live event.
Ready to make a motion?
If we have no further deliberations from the commission, please
I'd just like to make a quick comment.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gonfiantini, I really want to be mindful and address the neighborhood complaints. I know it's a significant challenge to live amongst an entertainment zone. I too live in that space. But activation is critical to these neighborhoods for downtown and the midtown space. And sometimes when you're really close to the action, it's a little more uncomfortable than the remainder of people that are enjoying Midtown and enjoying it for the coffee shops and enjoying it for the yoga studios and enjoying it for all those uses. So I have a lot of empathy for your complaints and your issues. I hope in that security plan, parking will be addressed. I don't know if it was mentioned that it will be a part of that. Is that going to be a part of the issue at all, or that's enforcement with PD and that will be handled?
Correct. Parking enforcement would be a totally different thing. That is through RPD, I believe. And so we wouldn't address it in the security plan.
But the owner has been extremely transparent and extremely agreeable up until this point, my understanding. So I would hope that he would continue to be so, and that particular problem could get handled. Is that correct?
Yeah, can I speak?
Of course.
Yeah. So with the parking thing, it's kind of weird because, as everybody knows, Midtown has no parking. So
Right.
it's very difficult to have parking. I think the only parking available is that valet next to us, but we don't control any of that. That's like a third-party person. And no one can park at the motel. I talked to the owners, I know them as well. And so I've also kind of asked them if we're making noise just to let us know. She has my direct number. In any way, shape, or form, I always try to make sure that everything's good. But with the whole parking, we can't really control who's parking behind in the alleyway. I know my employees don't park there because people hit their cars all the time. So we made sure to tell them to park across the street, like on Taylor Street or something like that. So it's very difficult for my employees to even come to work. So it's just, that's kind of a little difficult. And I don't usually do this, and I'm not trying to look good in front of anybody, but this is just who I am. If you guys have a question, I do want to work with them as well. And I don't give people my personal email, so I would like to do that if you guys have, like, hey, you guys are being too noisy, or what's going on here. Like, always answer my email, so I'd be willing to leave that to you guys, just in case you guys have my personal email. I answer that every morning, so just kind of want to throw that in there as well. I just don't want to I don't want them to be cast aside as well.
I
Because
appreciate
I know
that.
it's important, and like I said, I do want to work and figure out solutions on how we can all kind of make sure we keep Midtown area vibrant, because honestly, that's the only thing that's kind of keeping Reno alive right now.
I appreciate that point of view because that is a sense of leadership in that particular neighborhood. And with more spaces opening, more bars, more restaurants, we will continue to need that type of leadership and that outreach to the community so that we can all live together really harmoniously. So I appreciate that point of view. Thank you.
Anything else from the members of the commission? Hearing none, we will entertain a motion if one is presented. Commissioner, so we also have multiple modified conditions.
I have them written down if you want. Or
I'll defer to Commissioner Velto there, Chair Jackman. He's pretty handy with those modifications on hand.
Understood. So Commissioner Velto, please proceed.
In the matter of case number LDC 25-00068, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the conditional use permit subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, and I can make all the findings with the following amendments. As to condition number 6, I propose an amendment that adds an additional number 6 specific to the hours, that says the following: specific to the hours of operation component of the security plan. For the first 6 months after receipt of the license, the security plan shall include a limit on the hours of live music Monday through Thursday to not allow hours of live music to exceed 11 p.m. The security plan shall state that after the 6-month period, this requirement shall cease unless the zoning administrator determines otherwise before the 6-month period ends. The remaining portion of the condition number 6 will stay the same. And with the following amendment to condition number 8, a modification to specify that security personnel shall be stationed outside during live music at a minimum.
Commissioner Becerra, second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. We will now move on to I should check, Commissioner Becerra, are you able to see the Zoom now? Is that working properly?
I am. Since 6:56, it's come back.
Okay, so hearing that, we do not need to take a break to reboot, so we will continue forward. The next item of the evening is C3, Staff Report for Possible Action, case number LDC 26-00017, River Hill Setback Deviation. We have a presentation from Mr. Foster for this item. Please proceed.
All right, good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Jeff Foster, Associate Planner, bringing you one case tonight, LDC 26-17, the River Hill Setback Deviation. So this project is on a parcel that is about 0.02 acres in size, located at 1518 River Hill Way, which is about 285 feet southeast of its intersection with Udowski Court in Somerset. It's developed with a single-family home, and the request before you is a major deviation to reduce the required rear yard setback from 10 feet to 5 feet. The project site is surrounded by single-family residences to the east and the south, and open space to the north, single-family residences to the west and the south, and open space to the north and the east, as you can see on the image here. And the key issue that staff analyzed is compatibility with surrounding land uses. The zoning is Somerset Planned Unit Development. So some background, the Somerset Aesthetic Guidelines, Section 6.3, miscellaneous structures state that outdoor structures must be within the building envelope, i.e. within the building setback. Section 6.2, building envelope adjustments, states that hardscape located outside of the building envelope must be a minimum of 5 feet from the property line. The Aesthetic Guidelines Committee conditionally approved the proposed patio cover with a 5-foot setback due to the lot size, and you can see their approval letter on the screen here, and that's pending the approval of the major deviation. In terms of compatibility with surrounding land uses, this site is located on a corner lot, as we saw on the image a few screens ago, that backs up to a steep slope that is designated as open space, ensuring that there are no rear or north or east side neighbors that could be impacted. These two images show you viewpoints looking north and to the east, and you can see that it backs up to that steep slope. The reduced setback and the installation of a patio cover will not interfere with the privacy, enjoyment, or use of neighboring properties. Those properties to the west are shown here, and you can see that the patio cover would not impact those properties. There are other nearby property owners that have been permitted to construct patio covers on small lots with similar setback constraints, such as the one shown here. The AGC and the Somerset Owners Association have provided their approval, and that was on the previous screen. And staff is recommending condition number 5, the standard allowable days and hours of construction to mitigate impacts on adjacent residences during construction. I will also note that on October 14th, this project was brought to the Neighborhood Advisory Board, and no concerns were identified. So with all of that, given the above, the proposed patio cover appears to be generally consistent and compatible with surrounding land uses. Here are the recommended findings for a major deviation, and staff can make all recommended findings. And here's the recommended motion. I'm available for questions. The applicant, McKenna Perry, is available for questions as well, but will not be making a presentation.
Thank you. We will now move to disclosures, starting with Commissioner Velto.
Commissioner Velto, no disclosures.
Commissioner Del Villar, no disclosures.
Commissioner Gampiantini, no disclosures.
Commissioner Jockman, no disclosures.
Commissioner Williams, I do have a disclosure. I'm guessing you all could imagine. Fellow City Planning Commissioners and Madam Clerk, in the interest of full transparency on item C3, I'm disclosing that I serve on the Somerset Board of Directors as president. I also sit on the Aesthetic Guideline Committee that approved the setback request on behalf of Somerset. On this matter, I've sought legal guidance from the city's attorney's office. Here I have a per se commitment in a private capacity to the interest of Somerset pursuant to NRS 281A.065 subsection 6. Because of the boards and AGC interest, goals, and operations closely align with the city's interest, goals, and operation, my commitment in a private capacity to the interest of the would not clearly and materially affect the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my position to warrant abstention under NRS 281A.420 subsection 3, C in regard public officer, common op number 18006A, 2018, public officer is not required to abstain from acting on matters involving a nonprofit entity before the governing body where the interests are aligned. I have interest in the assessment. The resulting benefit or detriment accruing to me will not be greater than that accruing to any other members of the Somerset community. See in regard Weber Common Op number 0947C 2009. The fact that I sit on these boards will not impact my ability to impartially review and render a decision upon these agenda items. Madam Clerk, please accept this disclosure and lodge it on the record for the meeting and subsequent meetings pertaining to these agenda items. Thank you.
Commissioner Rohrmeyer, no disclosures.
Commissioner Becerra, familiar with the site and read and reviewed material.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
I do not have any public comment on this item.
Do we have any requests to speak in chambers?
No, I do not.
Hearing none, we will move to questions from the commission. And entertain a motion should one be made. Commissioner Velto. Commissioner Becerra, do you have any questions?
Oh, I do, but did you call on Commissioner Velto first? I'm sorry.
I would just want to make sure that all questions from the commissioner are answered. So Commissioner Velto is ready to make a motion. I want to make sure you have the opportunity to speak if you're not making a motion.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Just a clarifying question. I think maybe for the applicant, or I guess Jeff, if he's wanting to answer it, but I was just curious if there are any drainage swells or slope retaining structures near the rear property line that could be affected?
Hi, I'm the applicant, McKenna Perry for the record. There is a large retaining wall that was built by the builder, and that's visible in one of the photos that Jeffrey had presented. So that is not anticipated to be impacted as we would obey the rear setback of 5 feet that the AGC has put in place for this property.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. And that's all I have. I think from my end, it's a pretty straightforward residential deviation supported by both Somerset AGC and city staff.
Okay, I'm seeing no other requests for questions, so please proceed with a motion. Commissioner Velto.
Thank you. In the matter of case number LDC 26-00017, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the major deviation subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, and I can make all the findings.
Commissioner Becerra, second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. We will now move on to our final public hearing of the evening. Item C4, staff report for possible action, case number LDC 26-00016, 2400 Valley Road. Ms. Picotti, please step forward.
Hello and good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. Sorry about that. My name is Leah Picotti, and I am an Associate Planner with the City of Reno Development Services. And this evening, I am presenting an application for a conditional use permit to reestablish a non-conforming use at 2400 Valley Road. So the subject site is located just to the west side of Valley Road, north of Stillwell. You can kind of see by this photo, it's surrounded by multifamily residential apartment complexes. Today's request is for a conditional use permit to reestablish a non-conforming warehouse and distribution use in a building that has historically been used for warehouse and distribution since approximately 1955. However, the applicants did not maintain their business license during that time. And as such, if you don't maintain your business license for a period of a year, you have to come back forward with a conditional use permit to reestablish this. So again, that surrounding zoning is MF 30. Key issues we looked at this were site design and compatibility with surrounding uses and developments. If anybody thinks this looks familiar, it should, because you saw the same application in October of 2023. Exactly the same request, same applicants. Unfortunately, they didn't comply with the conditions of approval in the 18-month timeframe, and they didn't come forward to ask for an extension. So that conditional use permit expired on April 4th, 2025. Now, sorry, this does not seem to be working. So the only thing that we are changing between that 2023 approval and today's approval is condition number 11, because since that was approved, this elevated utility pad that you see on your screen here has been added. We were really specific in that 2023 approval that there had to be this 6-foot high solid wall that was 80 feet long. Unfortunately, because that elevated utility pad was there, it wasn't really possible to build that wall the way that it was conditioned. So I have modified condition number 11 to be a little bit less specific, but still require that wall along that side. So where you see that chain link fence there, it's still going to be there, but it's going to start just behind the elevated utility pad. So essentially, we're still keeping the intent of that, to block noise and mitigate it, but we've just made it more feasible than what it was previously. Conditional use permit findings are on the board. Use is existing, non-conforming. There have not been any complaints against this site since 2004 when it was like an unrelated complaint related to trash or things like that. It's an existing building. The residential uses surrounding the site were all fairly recently developed. And again, there have been no complaints. And staff did not find that it will be materially detrimental. So we are recommending approval. The recommended motion is on the board. Mr. Snellgrove is here with a presentation as well. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Mr. Snellgrove, please proceed. State your name for the record.
Good evening, Dave Snellgrove, Planning Manager at Bowman Consulting. I've got my presentation materials up. Italy did a good job in covering primaries of this. There's really only a couple things I probably want to go over here. That utility pad, when we came for the application, it wasn't built. The condition got put on. It went to an 80-foot wall, and it was very specific. was one of the challenges. This, it did end up expiring. We were about ready with submittal. We've got engineering plans pretty much ready on this, so we should be able to come back in very quickly. One other condition that they did change, normally you have 18 months for to submit your building permit. They've changed that to 12 months, correct? Yeah, so they shortened the time frame to say, hey, you got to get this done. And we understand and we do greatly appreciate that. Leah mentioned, this being out there for a long time. This kind of shows the growth in the area down the bottom left-hand corner. 1956, the building was there. The Vaughan Industrial area had been just to the east of that. I worked on some of the student housing that's up around there. It's grown in, and there's kind of a peninsula of housing. You can see the student housing goes out in the finger inside the railroad loop. We are directly adjacent to the railroad tracks, and just to the south of the railroad tracks is the Timberway industrial area. So we're right next to all the industrial. Because of what Ray and Ray does, they're able to supply, they have produce, and they do have students that do come over and buy produce. They have some canned goods too. So they do offer an opportunity in an area where it's very walkable for people to come over, and as more people know about it, and as they get on the right side of code, and that's what we've been trying to do with them. So with that, I just wanted to make sure that you saw kind of some of the historical photos. I think those were quite interesting. With me in the audience tonight is Manny Torres with Ray and Ray. If you have any questions from an operational standpoint, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
I do not have any public comment, and I do not have any request to speak forms.
Hearing none, we will move to disclosures. Commissioner Velto.
Commissioner Velto, no disclosures.
Commissioner Del Villar, no disclosures.
Commissioner Gonfantini, no disclosures.
Commissioner Jockman, phone call from the applicant.
Commissioner Williams, no disclosures.
Commissioner Rohrmeyer, no disclosures?
Commissioner Becerra, I feel like I'm dating myself now. I was on the commission when this was before us then. I think I made the motion to approve it then. I am familiar with the site as I grew up right around the corner from there, and I read and reviewed the material.
Okay, we will now move to questions from the commission. Commissioner Becerra, anything online?
No, Chair. I appreciate it, though.
You came off of mute. I wasn't quite sure if that meant something. So I guess I'll just have one question. This was obviously approved 2 years ago. It sounds like per the report, it didn't get approved or didn't move forward because of the way the condition was worded. So is there anything, this is for the applicant, is there anything that you'd like to state now before a motion is made so that this process doesn't carry out again?
No.
Okay.
I'll get on the record. Dave Snellgrove for the record. No, I think that the wall was a big hurdle for us. There were some other things that slowed us down. And when push came to shove, they went to say, okay, we need to get this moving again. I looked at it and I went, oh my gosh, this expired a couple months ago. I put a call in at that time to Carter Williams, who had worked on it previously, and that may have been around the time the whole shakeup was happening, so I didn't get a call back from Carter. So I kind of sat for a few more months, and then we pursued, hey, we need to get this re-upped.
Okay, so you're comfortable with the way this is prepared?
Yes, yeah, I'm very appreciative of staff working with us on that wall condition. It was a challenge with that utility box. We met with NV Energy to see if we could do something, and blocking off the front of that, because there's no other real access since it's an elevated utility pad area, there wasn't a whole lot they could do. They do need to have access and have that open. So I think the remedy to this that Lee and I have discussed and we've come up with meets the full intent of what is desired there. And there is a 6 foot plus or minus wall. It's actually taller than 6 feet down by the loading dock area. And that's really where the vehicle noises are going to be coming from. So it's actually a little closer and probably better sound attenuation at that point.
Sounds good. Thank you. Commissioner Becerra, you have your hand raised.
Oh, sure. It sounds like kind of straightforward, and feel like we can do Mr. Snellgrove and his team a solid, and happy to make a motion if everyone feels comfortable.
If you would like to, Commissioner Becerra, if you would like to make a motion, please proceed. I see no further requests from the commission.
All right, great. Thank you, Chair. In the matter of case number LDC 26-00016, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the conditional use permit subject to conditions listed in the staff report, and I can make all the findings.
Commissioner Gonfantini, I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is business items. D1, oh, I apologize, Jackie's not here, Ms. Bryant's not here tonight, so we will be moving through that item. We have the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Liaison Report. Commissioner Velto, I believe there has not been one since
Yeah, I don't think there has been.
Commissioner Rohrmeyer, we have not had a meeting since our last City of Reno Planning Commission meeting. So now we will move on to item F, future agenda items for discussion only.
Commissioner Del Villar, I have a couple of items. One is we've been talking a lot about the security, especially for some of the bars that have been coming up and the hours. And so I'm wondering if we can have our RPD come in and kind of give us their thoughts on what would be successful for everybody involved. I think that would be helpful because we're asking questions that are going straight to what RPD is supposed to be building into their security plan. So if we could do that, I think that would be helpful. Also, I think that we could potentially recommend, I guess, to City Council that we look at the noise ordinance that's in place now and somehow consider the sound pressure bass type music and if there's a potential limit that we can put on that as we do with decibels. That is it.
Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you, Chair. Just maybe a question for Mr. Mike. Was just wondering, I know we made some recommendations in the past, and was just wondering if you had like the calendar of what we could anticipate as far as those past recommendations. Do you know what's in the queue, or kind of still sorting that out?
Yeah, so staff is working on bringing forward some of those items. We had anticipated that Jackie Bryant would be giving the presentation on CTAX, which is why we haven't brought that forward. So I will work with the city manager's office to determine when she's going to come back, and then we'll backfill those gaps, so to speak, with the items we've previously discussed.
I salute you. Thanks, Mike.
And it's worded a little bit differently. Does this pertain to anything from staff or future agenda items for this commission?
Correct. That's correct. But the one thing I do want to know, just based on our anticipated public interest in the item that will be on our next agenda, we will not be having a presentation because we do anticipate that will be a long meeting.
Understood. Anything else from the commission regarding this agenda item?
Mr. Chair, just one comment too. Commissioner Williams, for the record, fully support Commissioner Del Villar's comments about the noise ordinance. Seems like there's a lot of variables that are in play here and a lot of inconsistencies on the noise and past actions that we could maybe help with. So.
Anything else under this item? Okay, that moves us on to item G, public comment. I will remind members of this commission that this public comment item is generally for the public. Anyone can speak, and please keep that in mind when speaking under this item. Do we have any requests to speak in chambers, Madam Clerk?
I do not have any request to speak forms. We don't have anyone on Zoom with their hand raised.
Hearing none, that will end the meeting. Item H, adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
You can get a 5-pound bag of hot tamales for $22.